about the future of activations and promotions in South Africa and beyond.
Be clear around how you're going to build this relationship between brand and your customer or your shopper or consumer. What are those key milestones, those short-term goals?
The first thing I'd like to ask you is just a little bit of background, just a little bit of background about yourself, and then just a little bit of context about what you do now, how you do it.
Cool. All right, cool. Let's get into it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Tshiamo Tladi. I am the strategy director for retail specialist agency 34 Degrees South. We've really just taken what was fundamentally a purely through the line offering and really reimagined it as a concept called creative commerce. And creative commerce is in essence a unique proposition we bring to the market around how do we ensure that every single touch point of creative output delivers where it matters most, and that is sales.
One of the big reasons why I thought you'd be a perfect fit for this series, which talks about the future of activations and promotions in South Africa and beyond. In our world, in activations and promotions world, things haven't changed that much, except a little bit of fear. And that fear holding clients back from engaging fully in that space again. But biggest brand marketing shifts that you've seen or that you're seeing?
What I've seen as a shift is that where we were all kind of moving at panic levels around how quickly can we integrate omnichannel, how quickly can we integrate into digital, we're actually being reminded, our fears are being quelled, that the heartland, specifically for Africa as a context, still is rooted in that interaction with the person, with the consumers at a place where it matters most, the point of purchase. So I'd like to kind of present it back in two ways. That one way, there was a general anxiety across brands around, are we ready and we get to go to make the leap into the digital divide? Or is there time for our fears to be quelled to actually remind ourselves we can actually go back to that face-to-face interaction? However, the manner in which we engage has to adapt and to change. And I think biggest shift that I've seen is how now suddenly, rather than integrating face-to-face and making it live digitally, we are actually finding opportunities for digital to be integrated to that interaction that we find below the line or through the line. And I think that for me has been quite an interesting shift in how brands are also interacting, is that they're creating those new touch points that consumers can engage with, both at the point of purchase, with an activation, at the event, that I think is really promising and presenting a new plethora of activations that we can now start bringing to life for consumers.
But let's just go to South Africa by itself, because we've got a very interesting population. We're still in a kind of third world economy. So although everybody, if you think about global brands that we work with, we won't name names in this, but they look towards the Americas or Europe and how things are just going digital. It's no touch. Everything is AI. Everything is robotic. But give me your view when you start your strategies and you think about shopper marketing, you think about activations, promotions, and in the space. How do you take the consumer into consideration? And what are your thoughts about South African consumers?
We are still very much a populace that trusts in people before technology, but also true the intimidation and lack of education around technology and what that enables in a big way. And I think the reality is, for us as brands and for us as also marketing custodians, advertising custodians, the education gobs is such a big task. I mean, think of how many brands are still trying to educate the consumers about the benefits of going digital or benefits of interacting digitally, rather than saying, guys, we get it. People still love to interact with us face to face. Let's stick to that as a primary means to engage. And I mean, look, let's also face the reality, Dries, that as on our side as agency, on our side as brands, we're always faced with the dilemma of better managing budgets in order to drive efficacy and effectiveness in our campaigns. But the hard reality is, where efficacy sits lives in a very labor-intensive space where, for example, USSD was the primary means that got higher engagement than the Mobi site, than the website, then all these things that we thought would be great user experiences to offer and ways to engage with the brand, it did not gain as much traction as the simple simplicity of here's a USSD string to dial. And that's what really worked. Yes, it's not as fun. Yes, it's not as exciting, but truth be told, it's effective. It's where the heartland of where our consumers still find that trust. Consumers are not looking for richer experiences. Consumers are looking for seamless experiences. And I think the key distinction between richer versus seamless is that richer makes it heavier and creates a unintended barrier to engage. One of the reasons why even a brand like Capitec has done so exceptionally well within what feels like a innovative industry as banking was keep it so simple at getting to the root of the cause of offering consumers a seamless experience of sending and receiving money. I think that is the heart of what our consumers are looking for, even in terms of how we build our campaigns, how we build up our activations is around, do not give me hoops and hoops and hoops to get through just to get a complete fulfilling experience, but rather give me a seamless experience of that interaction. And we'll be so surprised how much more well our big consumer brands will land with both shopper and consumer.
We're in a country that still needs human-to-human contact, but we have brands saying human-to-human is fine, but we need it to become digital or more digital.
Yeah.
What are the kind of methods that agencies can use? So what are the methods brands can look at, and kind of even national trade marketing divisions can have a look at to start bridging or start bringing together this kind of human to human that's needed in SA, but then still kind of answer this need for being innovative, disruptive within a cost-effective manner.
Digital has presented an opportunity to marry the two. But the means in which it is marrying the two, that's what I'll be honest with you, that we're still figuring out effectively how do we do that. For example, there are instances where certain service providers are able to provide a seamless experience of interacting with a piece of content at an activation and immediately be redirected onto the e-commerce platform to complete the purchase once you've had a positive experience with an activation. Brand custodians understand the pressure of delivering on sales. But the hard part of it is that they're not willing to always take full accountability that, are we using the right tool to achieve this goal of driving and winning where it matters most in sale? What's starting to happen within the world of shopper is clarity on what exactly is the key metrics for certain activities that we do. I, for one, believe that moving forward, the challenge and obligation on us as through the line agencies is about showing how we are closing the gap on key measures such as weight of purchase, key measures such as on-shelf presence, forward share, how we're driving, importantly, ownership of our category spaces, how we're developing category, how we're showing that our partners and the shopper and the consumers that we want to make this product as easy to pick and choose as possible. Each of those various tools and that we can use plays a significant role in either driving awareness, driving conversion, or driving sales. And we need to be clearer around how do we marry all the touch points in answering the key objective at the very beginning of what do you want me to do, Mr. Brand Custodian? Do you want me to build brand love, build power, build salience? Perfect. Here's a groundbreaking idea. Here's groundbreaking activations over Santon Square and launch a rocket into the sky. Groundbreaking, newsworthy, boom, power and salience achieved. But then again, do you want to build meaning? Do you want to build the sense of love to the brand, of power for the brand? It's about value. It's about really making it meaningful to say, this is why this particular offering makes sense for you.
So the question now is, what are my platforms? What are the options I have if I want to go digital? I have activations and promotions, so thank you. I understand you can fuel sales, but whilst fueling sales, I also want my consumer to have a bit of an experience.
There is such a plethora of new ways in which tools are being developed to integrate and make that much more seamless as experience of, to your point, taking what's happening on the ground and making it live as something that consumers can engage with, whether it be above the line or even digitally. And I'll use a very silly example. Okay, this is not a shameless product placement. This is nothing more than a hand sanitizer for Sanitouch. But look what's at the back of the bottle, a QR code.
Okay.
A QR code that says scan for more details. The many ways that which the idea of being able to integrate digital across various mediums and platform, there's no limits to it. And I think the power for me is also, I think what I believe is also quite important. We're finding the right tool for the audience you want to engage with. Understanding that the vast majority of our audience do not have the capability or a phone with the capability of scanning this. Doesn't make practical sense to have QR codes at all activations at FNB Stadium. No. Because the investment to set up the Mobi site, the investment needed to set up the Wi-Fi's, to set up this thing to be able to link a phone to this, is going to become an unnecessary massive investment. And so for that, I would then ask you, say that, so what then becomes the alternative? USSD. It's simple, it's seamless, costs you like what? I think it was like 90 cents a minute or something. It was seamless, and it gets the exact same kind of outcome of getting people to take what's happening on the ground and interacting with it digitally or via mobile. It's important for us to do our own due diligence to ensure that we're picking the right vehicle and means of connecting what's happening on the ground to what we want people to do and interact with us digitally. I think the challenge then for us is to really navigate our people as their second screen engaging with us with a nice device like this, or is that second screen something a little bit more feature-based that we need to start adapting the very same idea to translate onto that platform? We have to sometimes tell a client that their idea will not work in a certain platform or a certain space. The failure is not us as an agency in making it work, but it's the failure that the experience that the person on this side of the spectrum will have will not be the same as someone on the opposite end. Because at the end of the day, guys, the one thing that I truly believe in is that the whole role that we play as agencies is to create as many positive interactions with brand as possible for our brand partners or our brand clients. Without getting too much into it, think of the days when we were launching products across various channels. That was so easy to develop it as a big idea to say, this is the overarching idea. But then suddenly when you start scrutinizing, but how does it work in channel A, channel B, channel C, channel D, suddenly it becomes a bit precarious around, hey, is that really the right idea or not? And a lot of us had to make those tough calls around, actually, guys, if we're running with this idea, this is where we need to focus it and be content that this is where we want to win.
We've got time for one more question, and I'd love to ask you this one. Let's say I was just come from a university, and I was a marketing graduate, and I'm now assistant brand manager, and I'm brand manager. Could you give me your 3 to 5, or just one, with what's the advice you'd give me as I start my thinking?
First thing I would advise any graduate starting today in advertising as a junior, assistant, or even a brand manager, be clear around how you're going to build this relationship between brand and your customer or your shopper or consumer. Sometimes that relationship journey starts off with awareness. Awareness builds equity, love. In some instances, it requires availability, pricing, promotion. What is key and what is distinct about what I've just alluded here? The building blocks. A lot of us as brand managers, unfortunately, given the economic conditions we're in, we are being pushed to deliver above and beyond what our current budgets afford us. And it's important for us to be willing to take a step back and being clear around what is those key milestones, those short-term goals that you believe will build to a point where you will have ticked off all the 5 boxes that have been asked for the brand. Not all of them sometimes can be done within a calendar year. Some of them need a little bit longer time to achieve. So any brand manager watching this show, watching this segment, or watching this piece of content, number one, awareness does not gain market share. Promotion, value, availability, and placement gets you market share. If today they had to put a ban on advertising sugar content products, what is the one product you'll still guaranteed find and most likely choose on shelf? It's still a Coca-Cola. Not because they've done anything amazing, but rather because they fundamentally won where it matters most, availability. So that is just a bit of a contrast to those that are already stuck to the idea that it's about big idea, groundbreaking, innovative. Coke is done by just being focused and being good, to your point, on one fundamental thing, availability. The building blocks to building up great brands is first getting availability right. And not just that, ice cold. And from there, let's build up the equity of these brands. And this is where we find ourselves today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. It was beautifully said. I mean, and it brings me back to, I use similar tips. I use brilliant basics.
Yeah.
But anyway, T, listen, it's been eye opening. Where can anybody reach you that would like to reach you?